What if we told you that one of Africa's smallest nations just pulled off what even the world's richest economies struggle to do? Under the fearless leadership of President Ibrahim Traoré, Burkina Faso has wiped out its entire $4.79 billion national debt, and did it without borrowing a single dollar from the West. No strings, no deals, no foreign bailouts. For years, financial independence in Africa seemed like a fantasy. But Traoré didn't just dream it, he made it real. So how did he do it? What bold steps did he take to turn a struggling nation into a symbol of resilience and sovereignty? This isn't just Burkina Faso's victory, it's Africa's story, and it deserves to be told. Before we dive in, Ibrahim Traoré isn't just another president. He's a disruptor, a leader unafraid to challenge the status quo while others choose to maintain it. When he rose to power, Burkina Faso was drowning in debt, its resources exploited, and its sovereignty slipping away after years of economic mismanagement. Hope had all but vanished. In the eyes of many, the only way out was more foreign loans, the same path many nations have taken. But Traoré chose a different route, a bold and risky one. He believed that Burkina Faso already had what it needed to stand on its own. The key was unlocking that potential and uniting the people behind a shared vision of independence. Traoré's decision to reject foreign aid wasn't just daring, it was revolutionary. It exposed the country to short-term pain, but it also set the stage for long-term transformation. His leadership questioned entrenched systems and laid the foundation for a self-sufficient future. To truly grasp the weight of what Traoré achieved, we have to look at the situation he inherited. Burkina Faso, a country with limited infrastructure, was burdened by nearly $5 billion in debt, a staggering amount by any measure. But Traoré didn't see those numbers as defeat. He saw them as a challenge to overcome. He made it clear, the country's wealth, especially its gold, must no longer be siphoned away. Burkina Faso's resources had turned it into a target, and foreign powers would stop at nothing to maintain control. But Traoré refused to surrender. He vowed to protect the nation's riches, declaring that Burkina Faso would never bow, never plead, and never return to economic slavery. His words rallied the people, reminding them that they are a strong, proud, and worthy nation, and that the fight for freedom is far from over. One of his first steps was to identify where the money was leaking. Despite its rich deposits of gold and other resources, Burkina Faso was barely benefiting from its own wealth. Most of the profits were leaving the country through exploitative deals and foreign-controlled operations. Traoré knew that reversing this trend was essential, and he made it a national priority. For decades, foreign corporations dominated Burkina Faso's mining sector, extracting massive profits while contributing very little in taxes or royalties. In response, President Traoré's government took decisive action, renegotiating mining contracts to ensure the country received a fairer share of the revenues. He also launched a crackdown on illegal mining operations that had been siphoning off millions in unregulated profits. We'll go deeper into those strategies later in the video, but it's important to note, reforming the resource sector was only one part of Traoré's economic plan. Equally critical was enforcing financial discipline. His administration redirected public funds toward key priorities like infrastructure and debt reduction, while aggressively cutting unnecessary expenditures. This wasn't about austerity, it was about impact. Every franc had to count. What truly set Traoré apart was his ability to rally the public behind his mission. He framed debt repayment not as a government task, but as a shared national goal. This collective mindset helped fuel Burkina Faso's economic turnaround. But it begs the question, why was eliminating debt such a top priority? For nations like Burkina Faso, debt isn't just an accounting issue, it's a tool of control. Like many African states, Burkina Faso was ensnared in a web of financial dependence created by global lending institutions. These loans often came with conditions: so-called structural adjustment programs, that severely restricted a country's ability to decide how to spend its own money, prioritize its industries, or manage its own resources. The terms were designed to guarantee repayment, not empowerment. Take agriculture, for instance. It's the backbone of Burkina Faso's economy and a livelihood for millions. Yet, under these financial conditions, local subsidies were slashed in the name of market liberalization, making way for cheap foreign imports. While it was supposed to foster competition, in reality it crippled local production. Farmers lost markets, food security declined, and the country became even more reliant on imported goods. This wasn't just an economic setback. It was a blow to national independence. Traoré recognized this. To him, debt wasn't just a fiscal burden, it was a symbol of foreign dominance. Every dollar sent to overseas creditors was a dollar not spent on hospitals, schools, or roads. And each condition tied to those loans chipped away the country's right to self-govern. These weren't abstract issues. They affected people's everyday lives. That's why Traoré saw debt cancellation as more than an economic victory. It was a fight for Burkina Faso's sovereignty and dignity. It was a stand against the systems that have held many African nations in cycles of dependency and underdevelopment. His efforts were as much political as they were financial. Add your voice to the total liberation of Africa by leaving a comment in the comments section below. Do not forget to like and subscribe for more informative videos like this one. Let's proceed. With its debt cleared, Burkina Faso finally gained the freedom to prioritize its citizens' needs over the conditions of international lenders. And beyond economics, the psychological impact of breaking free from debt was just as significant. It restored national pride, confidence, and a renewed belief in self-reliance. For years, national debt had been a source of shame for Burkina Faso. It fed the belief that the country, and Africa as a whole, could never thrive without the help of wealthier, more developed nations. But by wiping out that burden, President Ibrahim Traoré did more than just balance the books. He reignited a sense of national pride and reclaimed Burkina Faso's economic independence. This bold move sent a powerful message to the world. Burkina Faso was no longer begging for aid. It was stepping into its power and taking charge of its future. The elimination of debt unlocked new possibilities. With financial freedom, the country could redirect its resources towards solving domestic issues. It could invest in education to equip the next generation of leaders, improve healthcare access in underserved regions, enhance trade, build infrastructure, and connect communities. In essence, clearing the debt marked the end of foreign domination and the beginning of true self-rule. But perhaps the most transformative aspect of Traoré's decision was its impact on the entire African continent. In a region where many nations face similar challenges, Burkina Faso's success proved that breaking free from debt dependency is not only possible, it's attainable. It shattered the myth that indebtedness is the inevitable fate of developing countries and inspired others to explore bold, independent paths forward. What Traoré achieved was not a miracle. It was the result of visionary, strategic leadership. So how did he do it? Clearing a $4.79 billion debt without any help from the West was no small feat. His strategy combined multiple critical components: tapping into Burkina Faso's natural wealth, enforcing strong financial discipline, diversifying income sources, and uniting the people around a common national goal. Every step was calculated to ensure long-term sustainability and move the country closer to true financial sovereignty. Gold played a central role in Traoré's plan. As one of Africa's top gold producers, Burkina Faso had vast untapped wealth beneath its soil. For years, however, foreign companies controlled the sector, pocketing massive profits while offering the nation minimal returns. Traoré's administration moved swiftly to change that. He renegotiated deals with international mining firms, arguing that the existing agreements were unfair and disproportionately benefited outsiders. He demanded that a larger share of the earnings be returned to the state, and made it clear that any company wishing to operate in Burkina Faso would have to respect its sovereignty. His position was backed by widespread public support, giving him strong leverage at the negotiating table. In parallel, Traoré also addressed the long-ignored issue of illegal mining. These operations had been thriving due to lax enforcement, costing the country millions in lost revenue and causing severe environmental damage. His government introduced new regulations to formalize small-scale mining, requiring operators to register and pay taxes. This initiative not only increased national income, but also improved safety conditions for workers and reduced the environmental toll of unregulated activity. One striking example of this transformation lies deep beneath the ground at the Bagassi gold mine, one of 8 sites in Burkina Faso, run by Canadian company Rox Gold, where miners now operate 100 meters below the surface, under clearer, more controlled conditions. Over the next decade, Burkina Faso aims to extract 3 tons of gold annually. Gold has become the country's leading export, playing a crucial role in its overall export earnings. In 2015 alone, the mining sector generated 255 million euros. President Traoré took deliberate steps to ensure that this growth was inclusive. He promoted local participation in the mining industry by providing small-scale miners with training and access to modern tools. This helped boost productivity and allowed more citizens to contribute meaningfully to the national economy. Revenue from these efforts was channeled directly into repaying national debt, transforming Burkina Faso's gold reserves into a powerful instrument of financial independence. But Traoré understood that increasing income alone wouldn't be enough to erase billions in debt. Spending needed to be disciplined too. His administration launched a detailed review of public expenditures to identify areas where funds were being wasted or misused. Lavish spending on luxury items, unnecessary foreign trips, and bloated administrative budgets were among the first to be cut. Ministries were required to justify their budgets and eliminate excesses. This approach wasn't about punishing the public. It was about ensuring that every franc was used where it mattered most, including debt repayment. Reforms extended to the public sector wage bill as well. Salaries were restructured to ensure fairness and transparency while curbing overpayments. To tackle corruption, a long-standing drain on public finances, Traoré's government implemented tougher oversight mechanisms. Anti-corruption bodies were established, and officials misusing public funds were held accountable. This zero-tolerance approach made it clear: impunity was no longer an option. Still, Traoré knew that gold alone couldn't secure Burkina Faso's long-term financial future. Economic diversification was essential. Agriculture, a major employer, was revitalized under his leadership. Farmers gained access to improved seeds, fertilizers, and irrigation systems, which significantly increased crop yields. Training programs in sustainable farming helped ensure that productivity gains did not come at the environment's expense. With rising output, Burkina Faso began exporting surplus crops, boosting its foreign currency earnings. Traoré also invested heavily in solar energy to harness the country's abundant sunlight. Massive solar farms were built, slashing energy costs and reducing dependence on imported fuel. The surplus power was exported to neighboring countries, creating an additional revenue stream to support debt payments. At the same time, his economic vision emphasized support for small businesses and local entrepreneurs. Startups gained access to microloans and grants, fostering innovation and job creation. These enterprises contributed to the national economy through taxes and exports. Importantly, Traoré didn't view debt repayment as a government-only task. He turned it into a national mission. Public awareness campaigns were launched to educate citizens on the long-term benefits of debt freedom. These campaigns inspired a shared sense of responsibility, encouraging people to play their part. In rural communities, cooperative savings initiatives were introduced. These allowed people to pool their resources and invest in local development projects like schools and healthcare, which in turn helped the government focus more resources on paying off the national debt. "I used to sow very little in the village," one farmer said. "Now it's a lot." When asked if that meant gaining more wealth, she replied, "Just a little." But that little, multiplied across the country, represented real change. Burkina Faso's goal is to steadily raise living standards. The government's development strategy targeted 8% annual growth. And with the launch of a domestic bond program, Traoré encouraged wealthy citizens and local businesses to invest in the future of their country, making prosperity a shared national goal. These domestic bonds offered a win-win solution. They provided returns to investors while giving the government immediate access to funds for debt repayment. Despite rejecting traditional Western aid models, President Traoré never intended to isolate Burkina Faso from the world. Instead, he sought partnerships that aligned with the country's interests and safeguarded its sovereignty. By strengthening trade relationships with neighboring countries, Burkina Faso was able to increase exports of agricultural goods and locally manufactured products. These regional trade agreements not only generated additional income, but also reduced reliance on distant markets. Traoré strategically pursued partnerships with nations and institutions that respected Burkina Faso's autonomy and offered fair terms. Collaborations with countries like China focused on mutually beneficial infrastructure projects, such as building roads and developing industries, that stimulated economic growth. Transparency became a cornerstone of his governance model. The administration regularly updated the public on debt repayment progress and how funds were allocated. This openness fostered trust, ensuring citizens understood the value of their contributions. Financial mismanagement was swiftly dealt with, and independent audits helped track every franc. Through this culture of accountability, Traoré strengthened the bond between the government and its people. By combining these bold actions, Traoré not only erased Burkina Faso's debt, but also laid the foundation for a resilient, self-sufficient economy. His approach wasn't just about managing money. It was about transforming how the nation functioned. Through reclaiming control of its resources, fostering national unity, and prioritizing sustainable development, Burkina Faso became a powerful example of what determined leadership and collective action can achieve. So what does this mean for the rest of Africa? Traoré's achievements reverberated far beyond his country's borders. For decades, the continent has been plagued by underdevelopment, exploitation, and dependence. While these challenges may seem entrenched, Burkina Faso's transformation proved they are not permanent. One of the most critical lessons from this journey is the importance of resource control. Africa is rich in natural assets, yet too often those profits have benefited foreign corporations, not local populations. By renegotiating mining deals to ensure more wealth remained at home, Traoré set a precedent that other nations can follow. Equally vital was the role of visionary leadership. Traoré's ability to foster unity, demand accountability, and make difficult decisions was central to Burkina Faso's success. His transparent, people-centered approach improved trust in government and inspired national pride. It's a leadership model that other African nations can adapt to suit their unique challenges. Additionally, Burkina Faso's experience shattered the myth that Africa must always rely on foreign aid. Traoré showed that true independence is not only desirable, it's achievable. Today, the ripple effects of this success are being felt across the continent. African leaders, thinkers, and citizens are engaging in renewed conversations about economic sovereignty, self-reliance, and how to truly harness the continent's potential. Traoré's story has become a rallying cry for a new generation determined to build a future on their own terms. Of course, this path was not without resistance. Both internal critics and external powers pushed back against his bold agenda. Many feared that such drastic reforms would destabilize the country. Foreign interests, concerned about losing their grip, applied pressure to derail his efforts. But despite the challenges, Traoré stood firm, because he wasn't just fighting for Burkina Faso. He was lighting the way for an entire continent to reclaim its dignity, resources, and rightful place in the world. Yet, despite the mounting pressures, Traoré held firm to his convictions. One of the greatest challenges he faced came from within: national skepticism. Many citizens of Burkina Faso were initially doubtful of his bold economic reforms, fearing that the price of financial independence would outweigh the benefits. To counter this, Traoré made transparency a top priority. He regularly updated the public on the government's progress and engaged directly with communities to listen to their concerns. This open communication helped build trust, fostered a sense of national unity, and rallied the public behind his vision. On the international stage, Traoré encountered fierce resistance from powerful entities that had long benefited from Burkina Faso's natural wealth. Mining corporations, accustomed to unchecked profits, pushed back against the reforms. Western institutions, frustrated by Traoré's rejection of their financial assistance, responded with threats and warnings. But even in the face of this global opposition, Traoré stood his ground. His determination never wavered. Through tireless effort, innovative thinking, and the unwavering support of the Burkinabe people, he transformed challenges into stepping stones and turned a vision into reality. The legacy of Ibrahim Traoré will resonate for generations. Under his leadership, the idea of African independence was redefined, not as an abstract dream, but as a tangible goal. His triumph wasn't just a national milestone. It became a symbol of hope for an entire continent. His efforts weren't solely about clearing debt. They were about restoring dignity, protecting resources, and laying the groundwork for a sustainable future. Burkina Faso, once overlooked, became a beacon of courage and possibility, showing the world that even smaller nations can achieve greatness with bold leadership and collective will. Traoré's story is far from finished. The foundations he built will continue to shape Burkina Faso's path for years to come. As Africa looks ahead, his journey serves as a powerful reminder of what can be achieved when unity, vision, and determination converge. So we ask you, does Africa need more leaders like Traoré? Can the entire continent rise to break free from the chains of debt and reclaim its destiny? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories on Africa's rise.